Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 162, guys. What's up? JetXC here, and man, we got a relatively short one, but it's leading into some pretty interesting things, right? So, let's just go over it in review because there's not much overall in this chapter, but there's one key thing at the end which will, like I said, lead to some interesting things, right? But this chapter kind of cuts over because last chapter we were with Remy and Megumi. So now this chapter cuts over to Yuji versus Haba, and we get like right into it, right? And so the first couple of pages, it's them going back and forth. It's Yuji throwing the rock. The rock is then deflected by Haba, and then we get to see Yuji put on some of his physical prowess on display. He long jumps all the way to Haba, grabs him by the leg, and drags him down the entire building there. And, Haba notices, like, yeah, this guy, he's powerful, really powerful. And, yeah, he basically drags him down to, like, it looks like the fourth floor of the building. And when they stop right there, Haba gets up, and he was about to use his propeller to cut his head off. Yuji notices, Yuji dodges. And again, Yuji with some great physical abilities, he's able to jump from that balcony onto the next building and then onto another building, right? And now his plan is a little something different because he thought, if he could get him on the ground, he wouldn't be able to use his propellers, but turns out that's not really the case, right? So his plan is, okay, well, I'm going to go inside one of the buildings and then have him come to me. Which, obviously a great plan because maybe a propeller could get stuck or it'll be hard for him to use them inside. But with Haba, he explains how he's able to manipulate the rotation and durability of his blades, right? And we see that when he comes just barreling in, right? And we see his blades are bigger. The damage they're able to do on the buildings is crazy. He's able to go through bars, steel, all that stuff, and he's coming straight for Yuji, right? And he yells, I'll turn you into a smoothie. And then Yuji basically says in his mind, okay, your head is like right in my face, like it's right there. And he explains that the woman that attacked him earlier when they came down, or when he came down from the Culling Games, she was able to go through multiple buildings while attacking him at like top speed, like super fast speed. But when a rock hit her, she just fell down and was like, oh, that's it for me. So she was able to hit him on the head, guys, at top speed, no problem. But when he throws a rock, with some reinforced curse energy, and yeah, Yuji's strong, but like compared to going through buildings, it doesn't make sense. So he puts two and two together, and he's like, okay, the farther apart the body is from the source of their technique, which is their hair basically, the less durable it is. And he surmises it up to be a binding vow, essentially. So if you hit these guys in the leg, it's gonna hurt. If you hit these guys in the stomach, it's kind of sort of gonna hurt, right? It all depends, just based off where the power is coming from their hair. But knowing that, his head still is pretty durable then. But Yuji explains it, no, it doesn't matter. A head is a head. It's still a weakness, which is true. If he's able to bypass the strength, that durable strength of his head, then he'll be able to basically crack him. And what happens next is interesting. So let's look, right? He gets his cursed energy ready. And then we see on the next panel that, Haba, he looks like something stopped him. And then next panel down, we see Yuji, as hard as he can, punches him in the head. Now he's bleeding, but if that was a normal person, that would have literally cracked him open. But like it was explained, due to this binding vow, his head is durable, so it's not gonna matter. So he's actually able to get up from that. Or actually, he never went down. He's still up after that. But Yuji was able to stop the propellers and all that stuff from attacking him. And he was like, oh, your fist has been shattered, hasn't it? Because his head is so durable, he's assuming that. This battle ends in your death, and Yuji kicks him in the stomach. Now that right there is the attack that takes him out. It wasn't the head attack. The kick is what takes him out completely. He was expecting his hand to be cracked, but Yuji says it hasn't shattered. So again, Yuji, super durable. We know he's got great physical prowess, great plan, great execution. Kicks him once and he's just down for the count. And then after that, it's basically over. Now he's asking, where's Higuruma? And we get introduced again to this guy that we find out later. His name is Amai Rin. Yuji doesn't remember him. So last review, I was wondering if we've seen him before, and we actually haven't. So this reveal, or this chapter basically reveals that he knows Yuji from school because he had a nickname back in junior high called the Tiger of the West, and Yuji kind of scoffs at, how bad that nickname is, which, I agree, pretty bad nickname. But Amai knows him. Yuji doesn't know Amai. So that's where the connection is. So that's interesting. So we got a guy that, for the most part, doesn't seem like he's got any hostility to Yuji because he's not really attacking him like that, right? So back to the love duo, which... well, maybe not the love duo, but back to the two bickerers that go back and forth at each other, right? So we got Remy and we got Megumi. And Megumi says, so wait, you're not a sorcerer from the past? So confirmation, she's not from the past. She's from modern times. And, she took that kind of as an insult, saying, do I really look like an old timer? And she basically, Megumi basically says, why are you actively fighting? Look here, non-player civilians were let out from the colony, but players who were inside the colony to begin with have been participating in the colony game for 12 days now. I'm not doing this because I want to. It's kill or be killed. So here's one thing I'm a little confused about with this, and maybe you guys can let me know in the comments, but when the barriers are made, non-civilians or non-players that are civilians, nothing to do with cursed technique, have an opportunity to leave. Complete opportunity to leave. And I'm pretty sure that includes Jujutsu sorcerers. Like, if you're a Jujutsu sorcerer and you just so happen to be inside of the calling game, I think you can leave too. Right? Because Megumi asks a great question, why are you actively participating? Because wouldn't she have the opportunity to leave in the first place? So that's a little interesting because she says players who were inside the colony to begin with have been participating in the culling games for 12 days now. And it's like, okay, that's true, but you could have left. And she says it's kill or be killed. So something, I don't know what it was, or maybe I'm getting the rules wrong. So again, let me know in the comments, but something is keeping her staying, I'm thinking, that kept her staying, which is why she's 12 days into this now. But yeah, so just let me know what you think in the comments. But she basically tells, Megumi, if you hesitate to search for a reason to fight, you'll be killed. And she says during this whole process, there's basically no difference between a modern sorcerer and a sorcerer of the past, because even modern sorcerers are growing this new high on their newfound power, which is pretty interesting. So that kind of goes to show that the dynamic between this old and new, there really isn't that much different. If you have power, and depending on the person, you're going to want to use it, right? There's not that huge difference between humans and people on a really basic level. Plus, this environment breeds fighting, and that's what Kenjaku wanted from the start. So Megumi thinks back to what he said to Itadori and is like, maybe what I said was kind of unnecessary. So now we get them bickering back and forth. Remy wants to know where we're headed, and then Megumi's like, well, why should I tell you? You might die before then. And she's like, oh, well, you're supposed to protect me. and stop calling me you. She's got a real big problem with that. And Megumi says, you know, there's always a chance you could die. And then it cuts back to Yuji. And Yuji and Amaya are basically talking. Amaya explains that, you know, the reason I'm with you now is because I was just their lackey. They would have killed me eventually, you know, if things would have went awry, basically, right? And so Yuji asks, where is Higuruma? And then also too, Remy is asked the same thing by Megumi, so it's kind of cutting to both, and at the same time they say Higuruma is at, now here's the thing, Amaya says Ikebukuro district and Remy says Shinjuku district. And then after that they're both like, oh well, hopefully Yuji or Megumi should be there. They both say that in their mind, Yuji and Megumi. And then we get a couple panels where this guy says, isn't it getting a little late? When will that child bring me my next pitiful prey? So someone is lying. Now, who do I think is lying? I think the person lying here, because this guy is not Higuruma. This is some other dude. The person I think is lying is actually Remy, and let me explain. Remy, you know, she was kind of found in the middle of the road. She attacked Megumi, right? But, you know, she's talking about wanting to be protected. And I think what's happening here is that Remy might be under this random guy's protection. And the only reason she's under his protection is because she's not really a fighter herself, so she has to be under somebody. And what she has to do in exchange for protection is bring this guy weak people so he can gather up points. So I think Remy is the one serving the dude that we see at the end of the chapter here. Do I think it's yeah, maybe. I mean, he was already with two other people, and like he explained, he was their lackey. Unless he's like hiding his true strength and he could easily take him out. But, you know, why would he bring someone, you know, potentially strong like Itadori to this guy unless he, you know, it just, to me, it doesn't really line up in my head, because there's just no reason for Amaya to do it, because he's with the other two looking for new fresh players for Haba and the one woman with the jet head from last chapter to just take out when they enter the colony. So more than likely it's probably Remy. Now, I think she's still good. Again, like I said, I think she's doing what she can to survive. Megumi's going to encounter this guy. It's going to be a tough fight, possibly defeats him. Now, it's up to Remy on what she does to convince Megumi, like, look, I had to do this because if I didn't, I would have been killed, or something like that. So we're going to get a little interesting back and forth. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, man. Another great chapter, but again, the plot is progressing and we're getting a lot of interesting characters. Let me know, guys. Thanks.